Y'all know I wrote a book, right? It's called Buy a Game and it's free. Click the link down there, you got it.
DreAllDay.com.
What's going on, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. This video right here, we're going to talk about a topic that I love talking about, a topic that I get asked about a lot, especially by young athletes and all you young people who are building yourselves up to another level, whether you're an athlete, you want to be a professional, you want to get into starting your own business, and you don't even have to be that young. You could be older than me, and you still want to learn about this topic. That topic is leadership. And there are a few principles of leadership that I want to make sure all of you understand by the end of this video that I think people don't really get when it comes to leading. That people, it's not even that people don't get it, it's that people never even consider it, never even think about it. And to explain this, we're going to use one of our favorite subjects, or a recent very favorite subject. And when I put out my videos last week or a week and a half ago about the top 5 players at each position, this player seemed to be getting defended the most. There were more people defending this player and his position on that list than any other player at any other position. That is all of our good friend, Mr. Carmelo Anthony of the New York Knicks. Now, I know New York is the biggest city in the world. I know Carmelo Anthony has a lot of fans. Listen, Carmelo Anthony is a great player. I'm a fan of Carmelo Anthony. You're a fan of Carmelo Anthony, even if you don't like the Knicks, even if you don't think he's done that great, you're still a fan. He's a good player, and you're watching this video because you've seen his name in the title. So what we're going to talk about here today is I want to give you all, first of all, we're going to talk about leadership, and I also want to give you all a history lesson. Because the reason I'm talking about leadership and Carmelo Anthony in the same video is this, what all of you need to understand. And this is one of the main factors that I used when I made my top 5 players at each position. If you didn't see the video, you can go back and look if you care. If you don't, it doesn't matter. This video is self-contained, you'll understand it. Is that one of the main things that I look at, like when I talked about comparing, let's say, Chris Paul to Kyrie Irving, or Kyrie Irving to Steph Curry, or Kyrie to Russell Westbrook. Kyrie was a guy that came up a lot when I mentioned this topic. Everybody didn't really pick up on it. People talked about other things. And Carmelo is another guy I talked about when I mentioned this topic is this. Leading is just as important, it is more important than your actual skill set. Because I had a lot of basketball fans in the comments on these videos saying, well, Kyrie can do this thing, he got this dribble, he got this shot. Listen, every player in the top 5 is a pretty damn good basketball player. So we're not debating what skill this guy got versus what skill that guy got. One of the main things that I do my rankings by when I'm saying which player is better than which player is not just their skill set, what they could do if we put them in the gym and just put them through drills. Listen, the rankings might be completely different. It's leadership. Leadership. And leadership shows in a game like basketball is real simple. Because in business, the scoreboard is money. In basketball, the scoreboard is the scoreboard. It's wins and losses. And one of the things that I talked about with, let's say, Kyrie Irving, when Kyrie was the leader on the Cavs, when he was the man on the Cavs, they were not a successful basketball team. They were not even close to successful. They weren't, it's not like they were scrappy and getting there. They were not successful. They were not even competitive, really. Let's just put it that way. He was great, but the team was not competitive. Therefore, he wasn't leading. He was not an effective leader. Now, when he got an effective leader on his team by the name of LeBron James, we saw what happened. That's the difference in leadership. Now, is LeBron James a pretty damn good player? Does that help? I would think so. Yeah, LeBron James pretty fucking good. I think that helped the case, helped his cause. But leadership is very important. Now, look at LeBron James. Look what LeBron James has done. He went 2 different teams. He's taken them to the finals. How many years? 6 years in a row LeBron James went to the finals? That's leadership. Now, is it game? Yes, it's game, but it's also leadership. Listen, there was a guy who played in the NBA, which I'm sure most of you know, around, we'll say, damn, 15 years ago. It was a long time. 15 years ago, this guy was just coming into his own, and everyone was talking about him, pretty much saying that he might be the best player in the world, skill-wise, by the name of Tracy McGrady. Now, Tracy McGrady had game. Tracy McGrady had skills. Tracy McGrady could pretty much do anything against anyone. Nobody could stop Tracy McGrady. Guy was averaging over 30 points a game. All right, 33 something. The only people who average as much as he averaged in the last 15 years is him, Kobe, and Allen Iverson. Y'all know Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady had a hard time getting out of the first round on his teams. Now, is that because Tracy McGrady didn't have a team, or is it because Tracy McGrady wasn't that great of a leader? I think it's a combination of both. But which one is more important is the question we need to ask ourselves. Which one is more important? is he wasn't that great of a leader. Because if you're the best player, and Tracy McGrady was on the cover of ESPN the magazine, they said, what should we call you, T-Mac? And he said, the best player in the NBA. I said, okay. And it was kind of like Tracy McGrady or Kobe. Who's better, T-Mac or Kobe? People like to compare them because they played in the same position. They regard each other. So people like to make that comparison. Listen, Kobe Bryant is a leader. Kobe Bryant can lead. Now, you might not like the way he leads. He might be a bit abrasive in his leadership, at least from what we can see outside looking in. But guess what? Kobe Bryant's an effective leader. Why? Kobe Bryant gets results. Let me tell y'all something about the business world before we go into this basketball film and give y'all a history lesson. Any of you know anything about business? You ever read a book on management or business ownership or being a CEO or being an entrepreneur? All of you can answer this question. When a company's not doing well, let's say a company's they're just not performing well business-wise. Maybe they're losing money. Maybe they're not hitting their numbers. Their stock price is going down. Everything just doesn't seem to be working the right way, and changes obviously need to be made. What is the number one? What's the first change that always happens? Any of you know? Any of you ever read a book on the topic, watched a movie on the subject, heard anybody talk about it on the podcast? It's the same answer. There's only one answer. What's the number one thing that happens when a business is not performing? The first thing they do, they fire the guy on top. They fire the leader. The CEO loses his job or her job. That's the first thing that happens. Now, why is that? The CEO may be great. The CEO might have all the skills in the world. Now, I want you to listen to the parallels between what I'm saying here business-wise and what you can say about your favorite basketball player who I may consider to not be a great leader. CEO might have all the skills in the world. They read all the books. They've been to all the schools. They got all the degrees. They are excellent. You've seen them outside of their job and they do things, they're brilliant. You heard them in an interview, you read some interview they did when they were on the cover of Forbes magazine. Man, this person is a genius. This person knows everything. I read their book. I swear by this individual, but for whatever reason, they're not performing. They got to go. CEO got to go. The CEO might have all the skills. You might be a big fan of the CEO, but if the CEO is not producing results, the number one thing that happens is the CEO goes. Not the number 3 guy who doesn't deliver every day. It's not the COO who gets fired. It's not the guy running the mailroom who gets fired. It's not the sales manager who gets fired. It's not the VP of merchandising who gets fired. Maybe they all get fired. Who knows? But the number one, the first firing is the CEO, the guy on top. Why is that? Because when the leadership's wrong, you're not going to succeed. Look at the Golden State Warriors. They had a coach by the name of Mark Jackson. They were pretty good. Golden State was a pretty good team, but someone in the ownership said, you know what? This team can't go any further with this leader in Mark Jackson, coach. Now, in basketball, I'm equating coaching to being a leader as well because coaches are much more expendable than players. Once you sign a player to a contract, you got to pay them. So you can't just fire players in basketball. You can fire coaches though. Golden State Warriors said we got to get rid of this leader in at least the coaching staff leader. We got leaders on the court too. This coaching leader, he got to go. They brought in a new leader, Steve Kerr. What happened? They've been to the finals 2 years in a row, won the championship his first year of coaching. Do you think that had something to do with the change in leadership? I think it did. That's not to say Mark Jackson's a bad leader, but he wasn't able to get this team to where Steve Kerr got them. Now, did Steph Curry get better? Did Draymond Green get better? Did Klay Thompson get better? Did Iguodala get better? Yeah, of course, they got better. But, hey, leadership. Steve Kerr's leadership might have had something to do with them getting better. Now, we can't just admit they're not mutually exclusive. What does all this have to do with Carmelo Anthony? What does all this have to do with Carmelo Anthony is this. Carmelo Anthony, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I ranked him where I ranked him, I don't even remember what position I ranked him. Maybe I think I had him under Paul George and I know I had LeBron, I know I had KD, there was Kawhi Leonard, and there was Melo and Paul George. I don't remember if Melo was ahead of Paul George or after Paul George. It doesn't even matter. The fact of the matter is, when Carmelo has been the leader on the teams in which he's been the leader, his teams have not performed at the level that many Carmelo Anthony fans expect him to perform. And then this is what people were saying. This is where the history lesson will come. And they were saying, well, Carmelo doesn't have a team around him. Oh yeah, I had Draymond Green. I forgot about Draymond Green. So Draymond Green, many people came in, Carmelo fans, saying, well, how you gonna rank Draymond Green ahead of Carmelo Anthony? Draymond Green is not that good. You're talking up Draymond Green like he's all that. Man, he plays for the Golden State Warriors. He's in the system. Anybody could do that in the system. Okay, number one, anybody can't do anything in the system. All right, that's false. All right, people say anybody can do what Draymond Green does, then why ain't nobody else doing it? I ain't seen too many other people do what Draymond Green did in the last, let's just say the last 2 years. I don't know anybody who's done that. Do you know? Only people I know who's done that is the guys ahead of him or the guys that are real close to him, like Paul George, like Kawhi, like Kevin Durant, like LeBron James. Who else? Who else has done what Draymond Green did? Nobody. So let's put away the tired old system thing. Now also Draymond Green wins, but people say, well, Draymond Green won, but look, he's on the team with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and now Kevin Durant got a great coach in Steve Kerr. And so what? Just because he won, does that mean that? So then somebody would say the stupid argument like, which I thought we retired back in the 90s. Somebody would say something like, well, does that mean Timofey Mozgov is better than Steph Curry? I mean, he won the championship over Steph Curry, so does that mean he's better than Steph Curry? That's what people used to say about, like when we talked about Michael Jordan back in the 90s. People used to be like, we would say, well, Robert Horry is great because he has, Robert Horry, we talk about Robert Horry, he has 7 rings. Some of y'all don't even know who Robert Horry is except for the name of the Future song. But listen, he has 7 championships. So people be like, well, is Robert Horry better than Shaq? He got more rings than Shaq. Or is Steve Kerr better than Charles Barkley and Karl Malone? Because Steve Kerr was on the Bulls and he won championships, and Barkley and Karl Malone didn't win any championships. No, that's not what we're saying here. Let's keep this conversation on an intelligent level of basketball discussion. We're not going to go into the dense levels of, the shallow levels rather of, this guy's better than this guy just because his team won the championship. You understand, hopefully you understand what I'm saying. If you don't, then maybe this conversation is not for you. Now, let's get into Carmelo Anthony, because people say he doesn't have a team. He doesn't have a team around him. Now, I want to give you, first I'm going to give it away to you, then I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to tell you the #1 reason why Carmelo Anthony does not have a team around him. Some of you may be surprised by this reason. The #1 source, the #1 factor that has led to Carmelo Anthony not having a team, a good team around him, like Draymond Green has a team around him, or like LeBron James has a team, or Kawhi, or Paul George. You know the #1 reason Carmelo Anthony does not have a good team around him? Somebody want to fill me in? Carmelo Anthony is the reason. He's the reason why he doesn't have a team around him. Now, let me explain to you exactly what I mean here. Now, this is not a leadership mindset thing. I'm gonna tell you step by step. Like, you can fact check me on this. 2003 NBA draft. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, all get drafted in the same draft, right? All right, so these guys are all forever linked. Okay. 2007. All of you can look this up. This is factual information. NBA has a rookie scale. So your first 4 or 5 years in the league, depending on how they changed it since then, the details are not that important to what I'm saying here. You're on this rookie contract, but then when you get to like the year before your last year of the deal, you can sign a contract extension to make more money, and you can extend that contract for up to 5 years, okay? 2003 draft class and 2007, they had a chance to extend their contracts, meaning those guys who were in that class could extend their contracts for 5 years. That was the longest you could do, a 5-year maximum contract for whatever was the maximum amount of money at that time. So this is what happens. Y'all can look this up. This is what happened, and this is where this is where all you Carmelo fans need to be paying attention. This is what happened. Dwayne Wade was the first person, I believe. He might have been the first. It doesn't matter who was the first, but Dwayne Wade, y'all know how you watch ESPN, it comes on the bottom of the screen. Such and such player has agreed to terms on a 5-year maximum extension. It came on the bottom of the screen. Dwayne Wade has agreed to terms with the Miami Heat on a maximum contract extension for 5 years. So he's going to stay in Miami for the next 5 years, as long as he possibly could get all the possible money. That happened on a particular day. Let's just call that day Monday. Okay. This is what happened the next day. LeBron James, he was also up for extension, along with Melo and Bosh and a bunch of other people. LeBron James signed his extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers, but it wasn't for 5 years. It was for 3 years. He signed a 3-year extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers, mind you, 2007. What happens this is the end of 2007 season, that is. What happens in 3 years after 2007? The summer of 2010, and we're going to get to that in a minute. You don't remember what happened, and I'm going to tell you in a second. LeBron signs a 3-year maximum extension with the Cavs, which means he's giving himself a little bit more flexibility, and he's giving himself an out clause in 2010 to leave the Cavs if he doesn't, for whatever reason, he doesn't want to play there anymore. What happens later on that day or the next day? Oh, Dwayne Wade's 5-year extension? Oh, now he decided he wants to sign for 3 years. Dwayne Wade changed his 5-year extension to a 3-year extension. Facts, look this up. Chris Bosh, next person, next domino to fall. He signs a 3-year extension. Now, we all know, knowing what we may not have known then, LeBron James, Wade, Melo, and Bosh is obviously part of this. Chris Paul also part of it. He came a year later. These guys are all good friends. So when Dwayne Wade changed his 5 years to 3 years, why? It's because of the influence of LeBron. LeBron called him and said, look, give yourself some flexibility, make it a 3-year deal, because then you're also putting their feet to the fire. You're putting the Miami Heat's feet to the fire, like, yo, y'all better get some damn players in here or I'm leaving. I'm the franchise. I'm not going to commit to y'all for 5 years and then let y'all fuck me over by not putting a good team around me and then knowing that I can't do nothing about it because I'm stuck here for 5 years. So now y'all got 3 years to get it right. Dwayne Wade changed his to 3. Chris Bosh signed his to 3. What does Carmelo Anthony do? Knicks fans. What did Carmelo Anthony do, Carmelo fans? Carmelo Anthony signs a 5-year extension. Why? I don't know. Somebody can look up the story and find why he signed a 5-year extension. I think, and now this is complete just me postulating here. This is not nothing Carmelo said. I think Carmelo just didn't want to look like a follower. I think the reason he signed a 5-year deal, he just didn't want to look like a follower who did the same thing that everybody else is doing. He didn't want to look like he was like under LeBron James's like thumb, you know? So I think, again, y'all can tell me what you think is the reason why he signed a 5-year deal. Because listen, he had just as much to lose. Let's say something happens to him in the next 3 years, he still could lose the exact same amount that Wade, Bosh, and LeBron did. So it wasn't a money thing. I mean, it was a money thing, but it wasn't. Carmelo Anthony, like, he was pretty rich at the time anyway. I don't think it was a money thing for him. He signed a 5-year deal for whatever reason with the Denver Nuggets. Mind you, that's where he got drafted. Melo signs a 5-year deal. So 2008, 2009, summer 2010. All right, we all know what happened in the summer of 2010. If you don't, that's when LeBron James did the decision and said he's taking his talents to South Beach. And the Heat don't even play in South Beach. They play in downtown Miami on Biscayne Boulevard. But the point, I like the statement. He took his talents to South Beach. Dwayne Wade was a free agent in the summer of 2010. People don't know this. Before LeBron announced that he was going to sign with the Heat, before he did the decision, it was only like a day or two before that Dwayne Wade signed and Chris Bosh signed. Chris Bosh signed with the Heat. He was the first one to actually do it. Chris Bosh committed to the Heat. He left the Raptors. Dwayne Wade signed. But Dwayne Wade was a free agent. The Heat wasn't sure they were going to re-sign him. Dwayne Wade was flirting with Chicago. He was looking at a couple options. The Miami Heat even had, or a Miami radio station had some guys sit up like on a billboard, and they was like, yeah, he's going to sit there every day until Dwayne Wade re-signs his contract. So there was a big push to make sure Dwayne Wade stayed in Miami. It wasn't a guarantee he was coming, because until LeBron made that announcement, nobody knew where LeBron was coming. So LeBron announces he's coming to Miami. Big 3 thing happens in Miami. They start playing. Things are looking great. The team competed, went to the finals first year, didn't win. Carmelo Anthony, looking at his friends in Miami, he's like, damn, this looks kind of fun. It looks kind of fun for 3 guys to all be on the same team at the same time and do their thing together. And you know, Carmelo could have been a free agent in the summer of 2010. He could have been part of this whole discussion. Because listen, Carmelo Anthony was right there. At this time, only Dwayne Wade had a championship. Carmelo Anthony was right there with LeBron, Wade, Bosh. They was all right at the same level. Carmelo Anthony's stuck in Denver. He's still on the contract. You can't leave, Carmelo. You signed a 5-year contract. Now Carmelo Anthony wants to get out. Now, this is when Carmelo Anthony starts looking around saying, damn, the grass is greener on the other side. I need to go get me on my own team. I need to go play in the place that I want to play. I don't want to be in Denver. I want to go make my own super team. Denver couldn't make a super team. They didn't have the pieces, and they also couldn't attract a free agent to come play in Colorado. Shout out to everybody in Denver and Colorado. I know it's a beautiful place. I've been there. Carmelo Anthony decides he's going to force his way out of Denver. So he starts making grumblings, him or his camp or whoever, that he's not going to re-sign with the Nuggets when his contract comes up. I'm not going to re-sign with Denver. So Denver, y'all might as well trade me now because I'm not re-signing. And I believe this was the summer. It was either 2011 or 2012, one of those summers. It's not a big deal what summer it was, not that important. But this is what happened next. This is important. Carmelo Anthony fans, make sure y'all still listening. Carmelo Anthony was about to be a free agent at the end of this particular season, when he could go wherever he wanted. And the badly kept secret was that Carmelo Anthony was going to go sign with the New York Knicks because New York is his hometown, or wherever he's from. New York is his hometown, I'm guessing. I know he grew up in Baltimore, but I think New York's where he considers home. He wanted to go to New York. He was pretty much saying, I'm going to New York. He didn't say it out loud, but he was going to go to New York. And threatening the Nuggets, hey, y'all better trade me now because I'm going to leave. So he was just in a hurry to get out of Denver and get to New York. Why he was in a hurry, I don't know, because the Knicks, well, actually, I do know. The Knicks had a promising young team at the time. They had a promising group at the time. And this is where Carmelo Anthony fucked up. Carmelo Anthony forced that trade to New York, and this is what New York had to do. Because all you out there saying Carmelo Anthony doesn't have a team. He hasn't had a team really the whole time he's been in New York. He hasn't had a team. But I'm going to tell you why he doesn't have a team. Because the only way Carmelo Anthony could get to New York in the haste that he was making to get there was for New York to give up all of their depth. Not star players, but depth. Like good rotation role players. They had to give those guys up in order to get Carmelo Anthony on the team. Facts. Look it up. Knicks traded Timofey Mozgov, who at the time was brand new. I think he might have been a rookie or a second-year guy. People weren't sure who he was yet. I mean, he ain't a superstar, but he's a body. They had to give up Timofey Mozgov in the Carmelo trade. They had to give up Danilo Gallinari, who Danilo is not going to be your main #1 guy on a winning team, but Danilo Gallinari is a damn good role player. Put Danilo Gallinari on the 2014 Heat, who got stomped by the Spurs in the finals. Could he have won another game or two if they had another body like Gallinari in there? Absolutely. They had to give up Gallinari in order to get the Carmelo trade. They had to give up Wilson Chandler. Wilson Chandler is not a superstar guy, but Wilson Chandler is a solid role player. He's a guy you can have in your rotation on a team that can compete. Again, you ain't running no plays for Wilson Chandler, but Wilson Chandler can fill a role. They had to give him up. Who do Knicks get back? They got Carmelo and Chauncey Billups. Now, Chauncey Billups is a damn good player, NBA Finals MVP, probably a Hall of Famer, but Chauncey Billups was on his last legs. Chauncey Billups was past his prime. Chauncey Billups was on his way out. He was closer to retiring from the league than staying in the league. Then they got Carmelo. So Carmelo shows up in New York. He's happy. He's in New York. He signs an extension. Hey, I'm going to play for the New York Knicks. Now look what happens to Carmelo. He's on a team with no team. He doesn't have any depth around him. It's not just a starting lineup. Like, you need guys on the bench who can play. The Knicks didn't have any because they gave it all up to get Carmelo Anthony because Carmelo wanted to force his way to New York at the time because Carmelo, for whatever reason, wanted to sign a 5-year deal instead of signing a 3-year deal in the summer of 2007 when he could have done the same thing LeBron, Wade, and Bosh did. This is what led to the Knicks not having a team now, and I still don't think the Knicks have a team. Hopefully they make the playoffs. Hopefully Derrick Rose stays healthy and does Derrick Rose things. But the reason why the cupboard has been bare, and the Knicks had to give up a first-round pick. First-round picks are the players that you draft, you develop them, let them get better, and they're on cheap contracts for several years, 4 or 5 years on a cheap contract. This is how teams get better. This is how you build depth. Look at the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry, drafted. Klay Thompson, drafted. Draymond Green, drafted. They drafted those guys, developed them. Now, did they show up pretty damn good? Yes, but they developed those guys into solid players. And most teams not going to come together the way the Miami Heat did. They developed Dwayne Wade, but they signed Chris Bosh. He was already ready-made. LeBron James was ready-made. But look at the players that they had around them. Udonis Haslem, another guy. They built him up. Joel Anthony wasn't no superstar, but listen, Joel Anthony was built up through the Miami Heat organization, the development of players. The Knicks haven't been able to develop any players. Who's the last player the Knicks developed? Who's the last player that the Knicks drafted and developed? Can anybody name me? Somebody name me in the comments. The last player the New York Knicks drafted and developed. I don't know, it might be Patrick Ewing. I think it's Patrick Ewing, 1985. He might have been the last player the Knicks drafted and developed. Somebody tell me, who is it? Who is it? I don't know. I can't even think of it. I'm thinking Melo, but Melo wasn't drafted by the Knicks. Nobody. Who's the last player they drafted and developed? I can't even think of this person. I guess Kristaps Porzingis. I guess he's the guy now, right? Hopefully they don't fuck that up. Now, let's talk some more about leadership. Going back to, because we got to talk a little bit more about Melo. People say Melo didn't have a team. Listen, when Carmelo Anthony was injured, the year that Linsanity popped off, whatever year that was, 2013, 2014, whenever, 2012, whatever year that was, Linsanity popped off, all right? We all remember Linsanity, right? Mike D'Antoni was coaching. Carmelo Anthony got hurt. And Mike D'Antoni, y'all know what he does. He became the man when he was in Phoenix, 7 seconds or less. Steve Nash dominate the ball. He pat, everybody else moves around. That pick and roll with Amari was deadly when Amari had his knees before he got injured and all that. Amari was the man. Passing over to Quentin Richardson hitting threes, Joe Johnson hitting threes, Sean Marion hitting threes. They were just killing dudes. The 7 seconds or less team. Mike D'Antoni's system is built around a point guard who can handle the ball, run the pick and roll, find the right guys, know when to shoot, know when to pass. It's not built around a ball-stopping small forward like Carmelo Anthony. Now, when I say ball stopping, I don't even mean that in a negative way. Carmelo Anthony's a pretty good fucking player. He should stop the ball. But it doesn't work in D'Antoni's system. So the Knicks messed up, first of all, by hiring D'Antoni to coach Carmelo Anthony. Maybe he was already coaching. Actually, I think that's what it was. He was already coaching before Carmelo Anthony came in. So it was another, again, a bad move by everybody. And why Carmelo wanted to force his way to play for a coach whose style was completely opposite of the way Carmelo Anthony needs to be coached. Who, again, this is Carmelo Anthony's choice. He forced that trade. The Knicks didn't force it. The Nuggets didn't force it. He forced it. Linsanity's popping off, right? Linsanity, the Knicks are actually winning some games. The team is having fun. Tyson Chandler's dunking on everybody. Jeremy Lin's doing crazy things. You got Asian people who can't name 5 NBA players watching the games. Linsanity's popping off. Carmelo Anthony comes back from his injury. What happens? He butts heads with Jeremy Lin. Carmelo Anthony wants the ball more often. Carmelo Anthony don't want to move around like Jeremy Lin says. Carmelo Anthony doesn't want to be a guy who gets told by Jeremy Lin what to do. Carmelo Anthony wants the offense run through him. Carmelo Anthony, ladies and gentlemen, essentially killed Linsanity. Jeremy Lin didn't kill Linsanity. The NBA's other point guards didn't catch up and start figuring out Jeremy Lin to kill Linsanity. Mike D'Antoni didn't kill Linsanity. Carmelo Anthony killed Linsanity. That was the most exciting Knicks fans have been about the Knicks in the last 10 years when Linsanity was popping off. Carmelo Anthony killed Linsanity, ladies and gentlemen. He killed it on purpose because Carmelo Anthony said, listen, I'm the man. I got brought in here to be the man. I'm getting paid the most money. I want the ball. Carmelo Anthony killed Linsanity. Look it up. Now, what does all that have to do with things? Let's talk about LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony's friend. LeBron James was in Cleveland, the town he wanted to be in. I mean, he's from Ohio. LeBron James is from Ohio, was playing for the Cleveland Cavs, got drafted there. He left his home team. I mean, that's the closest to his home as it is, right? He left his home team to go play for a team that already had a guy who was the man, Dwayne Wade. I mean, I remind you, summer 2010, when LeBron signed with the Heat, Dwayne Wade was the man. Because everybody's like, damn, Dwayne Wade got LeBron James, the guy who everyone recognizes as the best player out. He got LeBron to come to his team. Dwayne Wade already had a championship. Dwayne Wade was the man in Miami. Dwayne Wade was a top 5 player at the time. Yes? LeBron James left his hometown to go play on a team where he wasn't even the man. Took less money. Wasn't the full max that he took. Him, Bosh, and Wade didn't all take the full max to go play in Miami. Now, he became the man in Miami, but he wasn't the man when he signed there. And when he signed there, everyone said Dwayne Wade's team. Carmelo Anthony, on the other hand, wanted to go to a team that didn't have another superstar. He wanted to get all the money. He immediately signed a max deal for as long and as much money as he could when he signed in New York, so he could be the guy, so he could be the man. And Carmelo Anthony's the man. This is what he wanted. He became the man. Now, if you want to crown yourself the man, you want to kill Linsanity, you want to go to a team that doesn't have another star so you could be the superstar, you want to sign a max contract. I think what Carmelo Anthony wanted was to be in New York, and he wanted to get as much money as he possibly could. Carmelo Anthony got what he wanted. He got what he wanted. He got as much money as he possibly could get. He's never signed for less than the max. And Carmelo Anthony's in New York. And I don't think he's going to leave, but maybe he will. Who knows? Carmelo Anthony made this bed, Knicks fans. Carmelo Anthony chose this situation. Now, when we're talking about leadership, when you're the person on top, doesn't matter what organization you're in, if you're the person on top, everything that happens beneath you is your responsibility. Everything that happens with your group is your responsibility. So when Carmelo Anthony's team does not show up, does not deliver, it's Carmelo Anthony's fault. Yes, you might have a bum point guard. Maybe your backup, the guy backing up your position, can't defend anybody. Maybe you don't have a good center who can protect the rim and grab some rebounds. Yeah, that may all be true. But if you're the guy on top, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. There's a book. It's called Extreme Ownership. Just finished reading it last month by this guy named Jocko Willink and Leif Bateman. They were U.S. Navy SEALs, and it's all about leading. Extreme ownership. Just think of that title. It just tells you everything you need to know. It's about owning everything that you put your hands on. If you touch it, if you're involved and you're the man, you're responsible for it. Now, you may say, okay, so when LeBron James left the Cavs because they couldn't win the championship back in 2010, was it LeBron James' fault? Hell yeah, it was LeBron James' fault. He was the best player on the team. He was the max contract guy. That team was either going to go as far as LeBron James could carry them, or they were going to fall short as far as LeBron James was going to carry them. And they fell short. That was LeBron James' fault. When LeBron James went to Miami and they won those championships, it was LeBron James' fault again. When LeBron James went to Cleveland and they won that championship, it was his fault again. When you're the person on top, it's on you. When Warriors lost last year, we got to put that on Steph Curry. He got the MVP trophy. You got the MVP trophy. You got the commercials. You got all the fans coming to the game an hour early to watch you shoot 3-pointers from the tunnel. That's on you. And if you ask Steph Curry, I guarantee you, he'll tell you the same thing. You ask Michael Jordan, he'll tell you the same thing. I got to stop referring to Michael Jordan. Some of y'all wasn't even alive with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan. You ask, who was another guy? Kobe Bryant. You ask the Shaquille O'Neal. You ask the Tim Duncan. If you're the guy on top and things get fucked up, it's on you. Carmelo Anthony is the guy on top. His team has not been good. His team has not even been competitive for a couple years. Carmelo made this bid. Now, what they got right now, again, I hope Derrick Rose can be Derrick Rose again. I don't know what's going on with Joakim Noah. Is he injured? I don't even know where he is. Not even important. Hopefully they start winning some games. Hopefully they start winning, like I'm talking about season-wise. They've won a couple games so far in the season as I recorded this. The season just started last week. I'm talking about like get into the playoffs and win a playoff series. Be in a competitive playoff series. Can the Knicks do that? I don't know. What do you think? Carmelo Anthony, the reason why I put Draymond Green ahead of Carmelo Anthony is this is one reason why. On top of the fact that Draymond's winning, but we all know that the sandbagging people do for Draymond's winning. He's on a team with some pretty fucking good players, and that's absolutely true. I feel Draymond Green takes more ownership of winning than Carmelo Anthony does. I'm gonna put it just like that. In the NBA, we're not talking about Team USA. Team USA, listen, Team USA has such a talent advantage over the teams they're playing against. Doesn't mean they don't got to show up and play hard, but they have way more talent. All right, the guy sitting at the end of the bench on Team USA has more talent than most of the players on every other team. So we're not talking about USA, we're talking about NBA, where the talent gap between teams is not as wide as people think. It's not that wide. The worst team and the best team, the talent gap is not that great. The leadership gap is great. The chemistry gap is great. The collection of players, putting the right players, the right pieces together to make it work properly with the right system, that gap is great. But the talent, if you just took all the players in the league, put them in one gym, you wouldn't, and I said pick out the 10 worst players in here, those 10 guys wouldn't all be on losing teams, guaranteed. They wouldn't all be from the same 3 or 4 teams that are at the bottom of the NBA, not at all. The talent gap's not that big. The leadership gap, the mindset gap, the preparation gap, the chemistry gap, those are gaps. I feel Draymond Green takes more ownership for his team's winning than Carmelo does. And that's not to say Draymond is a better talent than Carmelo. He's not. It's not to say that Draymond can score more points than Carmelo. He probably can't. No, actually, he definitely can't, even if he tried. I think Carmelo got more raw skill. I just think when it comes to leading, I don't think Carmelo Anthony has taken on that responsibility. And that's not just on the court. It's not just on the court. I feel he's made decisions in his career over the last, let's just say, over the course of his career, he's made decisions that were more about him, more about Carmelo Anthony, get my money, be in a place I want to be, make sure I'm the man. Those 3 things were more important to him than winning. Because if he cared more about winning, well, a lot of things could be different. But I want to know what you all think. I talked enough. Carmelo Anthony fans, Knicks fans, basketball fans, even if you're not a basketball fan, leadership fans, any of you run a business, been in a business, you know what I'm talking about, been in a job. A retail store is failing, they don't fire the stock boy, they don't fire the person on register 3, they don't fire the person cleaning up the spill in aisle 8. No, they fire the boss, they fire the manager, they fire the person in charge. There's a person in charge responsible for all of that. Even if it's not their fault, it's their responsibility. And if they ain't doing it, it ain't doing it what it's supposed to be doing, you gone. Leader, you gone. The person on top, you gone. The person making the most money. So if the New York Knicks fail, it's on the guy on top. That would be Carmelo Anthony. If they succeed, it's on the guy on top. That would be Carmelo Anthony. Work on your game. Testing. 1, 2. Sound check. Test.